Hey guys, happy Halloween. Now I decided I wanted to make a pretty cool video this year for Halloween, seeing as how I didn't make one last year, oops. And I figured, you know, what better way to celebrate the second most evil day of the year, next to, of course, the US election, than to count down my top 10 manga villains. Alright, so let's get some criteria out of the way. I obviously have not read every manga in existence. These characters will only be from manga series that I've read, and some of the series I will mention I haven't actually finished or caught up to yet, so I will only be basing my choice off the parts that I have read. And of course this list is my opinion. Most of these choices are based off preference. I'm not necessarily counting down the most evil villains or the most well-written villains, just the best villains. Like when I think of manga, these are the villains that I think of. Also, unfortunately, in order to be talking about these villains in depth, I will have to go into spoiler territory. So what I'm going to do, in case you don't want to be spoiled, is once I announce a character and their series, I will have a little thing on the bottom to where you can skip ahead so you can avoid being spoiled from the series. And of course, the placement of these villains don't necessarily reflect my opinion on the series as a whole. Made evident with number 10, Acnologia from Fairy Tail. So you're probably saying, well, Acnologia, he's barely even been in the series, why would you place him on this list? Well, that's the thing, he has barely been in this series, giving Mashima very little time to screw him up. Like, Acnologia just represents evil in this series. Every time he has shown up, like, some serious shit has gone down. He's shown up like 3 times in the entire series. First time he shows up is crazy, because you have no idea what to expect. We've barely ever heard of this guy. All we know is that he's some crazy dragon, and he's got some crazy dark powers. So he's just like this really intimidating figure. They all get saved, and he doesn't show up a lot later until the Tartarus arc, which is, in my opinion, like the only reason to read Fairy Tail. So like, we know Acnologia exists, and we're all eager to see what's going to happen when he shows up again, because we still haven't really gotten a huge taste of his powers. And then, of course, he kills Igneel. Like, all the dragons come back, and this dude just shoots himself through Igneel, and this is one of the most powerful and emotional moments in the series, and it's all caused by this douchebag Acnologia. We still know almost nothing about this guy, yet throughout the entire series he has just been such an intimidating threat. And even though I have a lot of problems with Fairy Tail currently, you know, the threat of Acnologia is still there. You know, we see him show up, he kills God Serena just like that, it was crazy. And we know he's eventually gonna run into our heroes again, and I'm really hoping that this guy delivers, because honestly, he's like the only villain in Fairy Tail that I really give a damn about. At number 9 we have Frieza from Dragon Ball. Now, he is of course a classic manga villain. Pretty much everyone knows who Frieza is, and pretty much everyone knows how evil he is. This guy is kind of a douchebag. Like, basically, him and his space fleet or whatever, they go around finding these peaceful planets, killing everyone on them, and extracting their resources. And of course, during the Frieza saga of Dragon Ball, he finds himself on Namek. Now, the Namekians are some pretty cool guys. Like they don't do anything wrong, they're just a peaceful bunch. But you know, he sends his minions down, he sends the Ginyus, they just start wiping out the entire race. This dude is basically Hitler if Hitler was an all-powerful space alien. And the way he talks too, he's just so evil. Like, this guy has nothing but evil intentions. He's so greedy and powerful. Like, he doesn't give a crap about what anyone else has to say. He will kill them. And he does. He kills a lot of the characters. Like, he kills Vegeta and he kills Krillin. Like, he just kills a bunch of fools. His lust for power ends up being his downfall, because that disc thing comes back and slices him up. But, you know, the impact that this guy had on the series was crazy, because things got really huge once they went into space. And it really set the standard for villains in this series. Like, afterwards we got Cell and Boo, but he's really the flagship villain of Dragon Ball. He's just such a great villain. He makes this part of Dragon Ball really enjoyable, and let's hope he never gets resurrected again. Jesus Christ. Now, much like Acnologia, Akainu from One Piece is another character that we haven't seen very much of, but when we have seen him, like holy shit. Now, the build-up to Akainu was pretty awesome. Like, we got to know Aokiji and Kizaru much before Akainu. Ever since we met Aokiji, we knew that Akainu existed. We didn't know who he was, we didn't know what his powers were, but we knew he existed, and he meant business. And we of course finally get to meet him during the Paramount War arc. In my opinion, the best part of One Piece that we have gotten so far. And of course, the main reason he is on this list, the main reason everyone friggin' remembers Akainu, everyone hates him, is that he killed Ace, Luffy's brother. Like, come on, dude. Luffy just freed him. He goes through so much crap just to free Ace. And then he finally gets freed, and you just punch a friggin' hole through him. Now, to be fair, he was aiming for Luffy, and Ace sacrificed himself, but still, dude, like, really? This guy's just so cold-blooded. He has no mercy. He doesn't give a shit about anyone. He's just some big government badass. He's like, yo, you get in my way, boom, you're dead. I don't even care. And his powers are so crazy. Like, seriously, this guy's one of the most powerful characters in the series we have seen. You know, he's probably up there with the 4 emperors in terms of power. And he's just a real terrifying guy, like the friggin' magma powers. And even though we haven't seen much of him in a while, the threat of Akainu still exists. Like, they go to Punk Hazard, and that place is a complete mess. Him and Aokiji had a battle, and they completely transformed this island into some crazy wasteland of fire and ice. Like, when this guy shows up again, it's going to be crazy. And I'm really, really looking forward to it. Alright, number 7. We got Shao Tucker from Full Metal Alchemist. Now, there were a lot of villains in Full Metal Alchemist. Like, there's a crap ton of villains in Full Metal Alchemist. All really evil, well-written characters. But I decided to pick the one who only really shows up once in the story. And that's Shao Tucker. He is a state alchemist who the Elric brothers go stay at his house to study and do research or whatever. And they befriend Nina, his little daughter. Like, I know Father pretty much wanted to destroy the world, like he sucked everyone's soul out. And I know Envy kills Hughes and shot a child that started a war. But what this guy does, I'm sorry, it just had such a huge impact on me. Because this happens really early on in the series, and this is when you realize that this series is no joke. Of course, because all of his experiments have failed and he's being tested again to keep his state alchemist license, he decides to do what he did 2 years ago, which is to create a talking chimera. And he does that by performing human transmutation by fusing his own daughter, Nina, and his dog, Alexander. Which is essentially murdering them, because they get fused into this just miserable creature who just wants to die. Now, Ed and Al are amazed at first when they see this creature, but then when it starts talking to him, he realizes what this guy did. We also find out that the only reason he became a state alchemist 2 years ago is because he friggin' did the exact same thing to his wife. This guy is just a complete monster. And seriously, even though all this other crap happens in the series, I always go back to thinking about this one scene and how amazingly well done it was, but also just how evil this man is. And honestly, I'm just glad that Scar kills him when he does right away. Because I seriously never want to see that guy go, oh god. What? Why would you? Oh. And number 8, we have Medusa from Soul Eater. Now, she obviously isn't the main villain in Soul Eater, but she really feels like it. Because the main villain really doesn't show up until like the end, and she's just consistent throughout. So this woman is so evil and manipulative. You know, she's friggin' turning into snakes and possessing little girls, and she gets a bunch of the other witches to follow her by planting snakes in their bodies. Just like all this crazy shit. And she's so manipulative, she even convinced the DWMA to let her lead the mission on Arachne's palace. This crazy witch who has done nothing but evil, they friggin' let her lead a group of children into the woods to defeat another witch. No one trusts her, but she still manages to do it anyway. The main reason though why she is such an evil villain is what happens with Krona. This poor kid, oh my god, his life was pretty much horrible. His life was complete trash. Because of her. Like, she was so selfish. This was her child, and she treated him like complete trash. She only raised him so he could become a weapon. Like, he was completely tortured. When they finally free him and he goes to DWMA for that short amount of time and he befriends Maka and everyone, like, we can just see the effects that she has had on him. This kid is completely miserable. And of course, when things finally start to look up for him, he makes friends. He's finally happy for the first time in his life. She comes back and takes that all away from him, erases his memory, and just continues to do all that crazy shit that she was already doing to him. And then she pretty much creates a monster. He starts going around and killing people. He is beyond redemption. And then of course he eventually does kill Medusa, but he never really recovers at all. In fact, the series just ends with him pretty much dying, or at least acting as a seal for the Kishin. So he's never coming back. Like, that was it for him. It's even more sad at the end of the series when all the characters become obsessed with boobs, because the reason they do is because of the effect that Krona's sacrifices had on him and how he never got any motherly love. Like, all he wanted was some breast milk, and he never got any. That reminds me how weird the series is, what the crap. Next up we have Nico Tanigawa. You're probably saying, wait a minute. Wait a minute. Nico Tanigawa is of course the manga duo behind No Matter How I Look at It, It's Your Guys' Fault, I'm Not Popular. more commonly known as Watamote. So why is a mangaka here instead of a character? Well, it's because these guys are complete assholes. If you've read this series, you know the shit Tomoko deals with. Like, holy crap. She has, like, this horrible social anxiety. She pretty much can't talk to anyone outside of her family. And of course, she's in high school, so things are pretty rough for her. But instead of doing anything to help her out with this, the mangaka just decide to completely screw with her. The entire series is just embarrassing and mean-spirited event after embarrassing and mean-spirited event. Almost nothing goes right for this character, and you just feel so bad for her. Like, I don't think I've ever felt this bad for a character. But these two assholes, they won't stop. She's still in high school. She's still experiencing all these shitty situations. She has almost no friends. You guys are just too cruel. You guys are horrible. Like, seriously, just stop being such assholes and let Tomoko live a normal life. At number 4, we of course have Light Yagami from Death Note. It's rare for the main character of the series to be the villain, but here we have Light. This guy is crazy. He is too smart for his own good. When he discovers the power of the Death Note, he just becomes overwhelmed with the power. He pretty much snaps. He goes crazy. He's like, I'm gonna be god of the new world. I'll wipe out all the slime. And he starts killing hundreds and hundreds of criminals. He thinks he's doing a good thing, but he's still murdering like hundreds of people. Most likely thousands of people. Like, dude, really? Just no remorse. No remorse. Cold blood kills everyone. He has the power to do whatever he wants, and then he of course starts killing all the people getting in his way. These good, innocent people who have nothing but good intentions. And he basically stops caring about everyone. Like his family. He doesn't give a crap about his family anymore. His dad literally sacrifices himself, gets the Shinigami eyes to find out Mello's name. And when he's lying there on his deathbed, Light doesn't care that his dad is dying. He's like, yo, you dying. Give me his name before you die. What the crap? He also doesn't care about Misa, his girlfriend. He's just using her. He just doesn't care about anyone besides himself. And then this loser little kid ends up beating him. Like, come on, dude. Still, Light is such an iconic character, and it's entirely because of how evil he is. He's just such a great villain. It's just so refreshing to see the villain be the main character of a series. And let's be real, if it wasn't for him, the series wouldn't be near as good. Didn't mean to make a pun there, but I will take credit for it. You were expecting a Naruto villain on this list, but... So, here we have Dio from Phantom Blood. Phantom Blood is the only JoJo arc I've read with Dio. I do know he comes back, and I'm sure he would still continue to be on this list once I read Stardust Crusaders. Just by reading Phantom Blood, I put Dio at number 3. Like, that says a lot. This guy is probably the most unlikable character on this list. And it's established from pretty much the very first time he meets JoJo when he kicks Danny in the face. He kicked a perfectly innocent dog in the face. Like, that's immediately you're just like, whoa. Whoa, this kid is a piece of shit, he needs to die. But then, you know, of course it doesn't end there. He steals Arena's first kiss from JoJo in that iconic scene. If you thought what he did to Danny was bad enough, he ends up burning him alive in the furnace. He ends up getting JoJo Star killed. You know, the man who took him in, the man who was basically his father. And then he of course turns into a crazy vampire monster and starts killing and eating everyone. The thing is, most of Phantom Blood is just fighting. Like, we honestly don't spend all that much time with Dio. So it's so amazing how he made it this high up on the list. Like, Araki just establishes so quickly how bad this dude is, and it's great. Like I said, you immediately hate Dio. You immediately hate every single part of this guy. Like, what a complete piece of shit. And then, of course, they defeat him, but he's not really dead. He comes back and ends up getting Jonathan killed. So, yeah, Dio, you can fuck right off. And I hope that when you finally do die, it's going to be the most satisfying thing I've ever read. Number 2. We have Sosuke Aizen from Bleach. So this guy is brilliant. He is a genius. He is the reason why I hold Bleach into such a high regard. Mostly for the Soul Society arc, of course. Like, he pulling all the strings since the very beginning. He was planning everything out. And it was done in such a genius way. It was a huge plot twist about 20 volumes in. No one was expecting Aizen to be the main villain. Mainly because he died like halfway through the arc. He gets introduced as this kind and caring person. You start to like Aizen, but then he ends up getting killed. So you're like, well, crap. Then he shows up back to life. You're like, what's going on? And he goes up to Momo and he like stabs her through the gut. And you're like, oh, well, this is happening right now. Like, dude, you evil. Like, holy crap. You know, he kills that entire council in the Soul Society, takes over, gives out all the commands to do everything, gets Rukia arrested, almost executed. You know, he's just crazy. Like, he's such a well-written villain. And of course, he's back in the Arrancar arc that caused some shit. We don't see him all that much. He's just this huge, intimidating figure, and you know they're eventually going to have to fight him, which seems crazy because he's supposedly more powerful than anyone they've ever faced before, and the people they be fighting are pretty crazy. And of course, we get that final boss fight. Awesome, awesome stuff. Like, Aizen is just such an incredible villain. He made Bleach so much more enjoyable for me, and he's really deserving of this number 2 spot. Alright, time for number 1. Now, you guys familiar with my videos know what's coming. You've been probably waiting for this. You're like, oh, he hasn't mentioned this series yet, though. It's probably going to be number 1. My number 1 villain in all of manga is the Mosquito Queen from One Punch Man. Askeladd from Vinland Saga. I'm just getting chills about to talk about this guy. Holy crap. This is the only villain on the list who I actually like as a character. He's established as a villain really early on when he kills Thors, which is of course like all of Thorfinn's character for the first half of this series. He's like, well crap, I need to get better and defeat Askeladd. He killed my father. Like, this is some crazy stuff. You just root for Askeladd. You're like, yeah, move over Thorfinn, you little whiny little bitch. Like, Askeladd's just wonderful. Like, he's got the swords, he, you know, pillaging them villages, he taking all that money, drinking that wine, munching on that mutton. You just love everything about this guy despite him being just a completely horrible human being. You can even argue this guy is the reason Vinland Saga is my favorite manga. The only reason Thorfinn continued on for like 10 years or so, the only reason he did what he did, the only reason he tagged along with Askeladd and his fools was so he could kill him. But Askeladd takes that away from him when he assassinates King Sweyn in front of everyone. He's like, yo, I don't like this guy. I'd rather have Knut the Prince, you know, stop that invasion, so chops your head right off. He doesn't even care. Like, he knows he's gonna die if he does this. But he does it anyway. I wouldn't describe anyone else on this list as a badass, because they're all horrible, and I hate them. Askeladd's also horrible, but I freaking love this guy. He goes out like a badass too. Like, everyone starts attacking him after he kills the king, but it takes him like forever to go down. And of course, he sticks around for a while. Not only did he mock Thorfinn just by dying in front of him, but you know, when Thorfinn goes through that crazy character development, he has these visions of hell, all the Vikings who have died, and Askeladd is there, and he's mocking Thorfinn, and he's like, ha! You're a loser. He may have died, but when I think of Vinland Saga and its greatness, I think of Askeladd. As good as it is now, and in my opinion it only keeps getting better, but you always think back to the time that Thorfinn spent with Askeladd, because it was truly amazing. Askeladd really makes Vinland Saga the masterpiece that it is. So if you skipped over that, guys, go read Vinland Saga. Like, seriously, Book 8 comes out in December. You're going to want to get it, along with the rest of the series. And that about does it for this list. I had a ton of fun making this. I also had a ton of fun dressing up for Halloween. And with that, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.